My height may first, Abi.
Energy so strong.
Yeah.
Join the movement where dreams belong. From Lagos to Nairobi, hear the call. Skillway Academy, break down the walls. In the heart of Africa, a flame ignites. A rhythm so
Thank you, everybody.
vibrant.
Welcome on board, everybody. It's
Sets minds alive.
exciting to have you all on board.
Skillway
Let's go,
Academy,
people. Thank you all.
where leaders are
Thank you, everybody.
born. Embrace the tempo. Let your dreams take storm.
Let's go.
Rise up, leaders. Let the beat guide your way. Unlock your potential. Seize the day.
All right, welcome, everybody. Let's go. All right, let's give everybody else another 1 minute and we get started. Thank you all for joining. Exciting times. Thank you, everybody.
Feel the drums pulsating, the energy so strong. Join the movement.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. We'll kick off in a minute. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Skillway Academy. Break down the
Bring all the
walls.
questions. Let's brainstorm together tonight, folks. We have with us tonight one of the best minds in this field. It's going to be exciting, folks. Let's go.
Flood to the boardroom. Let your light shine, shine. Skillway Academy.
Thank you all.
Your time.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining. We'll kick off in a minute. Let's go.
Feel the drums
If you don't mind
pulsate,
how we do it
energy
here, as
so
always,
strong.
just tell us where in the world you're logging in from. Let's go. Dallas, Texas in the house.
From Lagos to
Just feel free.
Nairobi,
Let's see where in the
hear the
world you're logging in
call.
from.
Skillway
Dallas,
Academy,
Texas in the
break
house.
down the walls.
All right, let's see where you're logging in
In the
from. If you
heart
don't
of
mind, let's go,
Africa,
people.
a flame
In the next
ignites.
30 minutes, the goal is
A
to give
rhythm
you
so
some good
vibrant.
insights on
It
the
sets
industry of
minds
clinical
alive.
research, the upcoming
Skillway
program. We
Academy,
brainstorm
where
together and
leaders are
just have fun in a
born.
few minutes. Let's go,
Embrace the
people.
tempo. Let your
Feel
dreams
free.
take
Let's see what part of
storm.
the world you're logging in from.
Rise up,
Let's go.
leaders. Let the beat guide your way. Unlock your potential. Seize the day.
All right.
From the dance floor to the
Ugo in the
boardroom.
house
Let your
in
light
Dallas.
shine, shine.
Big D in the house.
Skillway
Thank you, Ugo.
Academy.
Awesome.
It's your time.
All right. Dallas,
Feel the drums
Texas.
pulsate.
We are leading
Energy
tonight.
so strong. Join the
Let's see what part of the world
movement
you're logging in from. Feel
where
free to type
dreams
it in.
belong.
Let's see.
From Lagos to Nairobi, hear the call. Skillway
Thank you
Academy,
all.
break down the
Okay, let's
walls.
get
Rise
started,
up,
people. Let's
leaders.
do a
Let the
countdown
beat
and we
guide
will
your
get
way.
started immediately
Unlock your
after the
potential.
countdown.
Seize the
All
day.
right, let's go, people.
From the dance floor to the boardroom.
All right, let's do a countdown and we will get started. All right, welcome on board, everybody. Always a delight to hang out with us as a community. Tonight is going to be one of those exciting ones. Most of us in our community, you know us for doing cybersecurity work, but we also have in our platform great mentors in different fields. This is one of those fields, one of the most sorted field in the world today, clinical research, and we offer a training in that space also. And because of that, a lot of you have reached out and said, "Okay, we offer clinical research training. When is the training coming up?" And thankfully, we got a date this upcoming Saturday, and it's amazing. It's one of those fields today that everybody's aware of some measure of research because of COVID. There was emergency funding for COVID globally, and because of that, it brought clinical research into the forefront of everything, right? Because humanity survival depended on it. So it's a big deal. So many of you have asked me, okay, tell us about the clinical research program you guys offer. And I'll tell you tonight, without wasting our time, we have the privilege of having one of the best mind in the world you can think of. She's a mentor in this field to me also. Believe it or not, there was a time I sojourned into that field a while back. She was my mentor, and I'm honored to have with us tonight my beautiful queen also, Olayinka Akinfenwa in the house. Hey, what's up, Olayinka Akinfenwa? What's up?
Hi everyone, how are you all doing? It's a privilege to be here this evening, and I don't know, available for any questions. Um, questions, concerns, whatever you are wanting to know about clinical research, and I'm definitely here to answer all of those questions.
Okay, so
To
Inka,
the best
before we
of
get into the details of the class and before you show us some content we intend to get into, for somebody on this call that is a layman, what would you say to the person clinical research is all about? If somebody asks you right now, what is clinical research and why should I care about it?
Pretty much clinical research is I just say it's the forefront. It's the initial pathway to getting your drugs into the market. So before it gets to the pharmacist who dispenses your medication, the clinical research are the people who ensure that medication gets to the market, either device, vaccine, or drugs, or whatever research therapeutic area it is. So it's just you helping to expedite or to work on those drugs before they get into the market. So you're
Okay.
doing the work before.
Okay. So what would you say to me? Because I know you were part of the COVID study. I remember then when you come home from your study, you don't want anyone to touch you. You want to make sure you go, take a shower because of the germs, and nobody knows anything about COVID then. But how has the era of COVID showcased clinical research in the US and worldwide? What have you seen as a shift or change in terms of research?
I would say yes, COVID is a good thing. It's a bad thing to meet a lot of people, but in a way, it's a good thing because, a lot of people don't know what it entails for a medication to get into the market. All you just know is, oh, there's this brand one and there's this generic medication. And a lot of times you feel like the brand one is so expensive and they're not allowing you have a generic, or they're not allowing somebody have a generic. It's because of the number of years that drug has gone through clinical research. A study can go as far as 5, 10 years. I'm currently on a study, and I was telling my husband today, and I'm like, this study is 10 years, so I'm looking at almost 2033 being on a study. And so it's like that. And so they have that clinical rights and the sole patent rights to have that medication um, on the market exclusively before they can, give the rights to any other pharmaceutical to provide a generic one. And that is just because of the timeline that from a research pharmacy from a research PhD student in the pharma world who was doing his research and has that ability, and like, okay, I think I found a cure, or I found something that will help somebody in the market, and it goes on from there. And there's so many phases in clinical research until it gets to the market, and usually that's a minimum of 4, 5 years, 6 years. COVID brought it
Mm,
out when they were, a lot of people said, oh, this medication did not even go through all of those, phases before it's being dispensed, or people are being vaccinated. And, there's a lot of things that a lot of people said during that period. But behind it, there's a lot of research that had been ongoing. And there's a reason why, with COVID, they said it was an emergency use. And that's because we were in a pandemic. And
okay.
so there were a lot of process that had to be cut short because of the pandemic we were. So during COVID, it brought out a lot of awareness to the clinical research world. And so that's why I'm saying it's a good thing. It's a bad thing because, they had to take something as bad as COVID, but in a good way, it made people more aware what it takes to even just get Tylenol out into the market before
Got it.
Tylenol out.
Got it. So, what do you say to somebody listening on this call that's, what are some of the typical challenge for a clinical research associate? Because I know you've done this for about 10 years. You work for some of the best in the world. You've been on some of the biggest studies the world has to offer. It's a heavy travel job. If you were to say some of the, let's start with the challenge before we talk about the fun stuff. What are some of the challenges? What are things people need to really prepare mentally for before making a jump into a career like this?
I'll definitely say, you have to be sure this is what you want to do. This is about patient's life. This is about data integrity. This is about patient safety, and that's the number one. It's as important as a nurse in a hospital. It's as important as a doctor in a hospital because you have all of these patients, chat information, HIPAA, all of these things there. You are like an auditor, where you go audit a site and you're trying to make sure they do the right thing, that they are compliant. So a clinical trial person has to ensure that, look, I'm not just in here for the money. Somebody's life is at stake. Some of the integrity, the data I'm going to say that, okay, I went to this site and this data is clean. Also has to have that integrity. So you have to be really analytical. You are, an auditor. You're trying to ensure that, I'm at the doctor's office, are the doctors doing the right thing? I'm at a hospital, are the hospital doing the right thing? Is when the patient comes, are they checking for, the vital signs? Are they ensuring they are checking for, whatever complaints the subject has or the patient has? Are they documenting it? Those are the things you want to really be aware of. Those are the challenges. Those are the, things you need to know. You also have to be able to multitask, because you're not just only looking at patients' charts. You're looking at, regulatory. You're looking at their binders. You're looking at trainings. Are the trainings that, that are they well trained on the study that they are working on? The people that are working there, are they trained to perform that study? So it's multifaceted, and there's a lot of, different aspects as a clinical research person that you have to look at when you're in a study. So pretty much, those are some of the challenges. And the other challenges is travel, of course. And if you're, if you have a family, we all know we want a work-life balance. So travel is one of them if you are a travel CRA. Since COVID, they tend to now relax. You have a lot of remote CRAs now, and so you can get that option of saying, okay, I don't want to travel. I just want to be remote. So you have options of that now, which used to be not there. It wasn't as much as, now. So those are some of the things that you have to do, the travel aspect. And of course, when you're traveling,
Okay.
it's, airports, delays, cancellations. Um, you already, start a visa, you already travel, you've done everything, and then you get to the location. Maybe you traveled overnight, and then the morning you're getting an email from your site saying, oh, I'm not available. What are you going to do? Those are some of the challenges you go through. But pretty much, those are
Okay.
manageable challenges that you can always overcome.
Thank you so much, Inka. And we're just enjoying the question and answers. We would have more people now. I've seen some questions, but let's start with this. I know you've told us the challenges. What are some sense of fulfillment in such a field? What are some of those kind of fulfillment you get in doing this?
The most important fulfillment for me is when you get an FDA approval on a study that you have worked on. Like a lot of times with, let me use COVID as an example. I worked on the medication, the Patlovir. And so when sometimes I go to the doctor, or, somebody goes to the doctor and I hear them, recommend or, prescribe that medication, I smile because, I know what challenges I went through right in the middle of COVID, traveling, to sites that is COVID infested. And, at the end of the day, the drug was approved. So it's not easy going through FDA. A lot of studies, I've been on studies that got terminated in between, where they just said, FDA said, well, this is more adverse than, there's more cons than there's the pros. So they got terminated like in between, and there's nothing, the sponsor can do. That's wasted money from startup. But if you get the ones that, that are approved by FDA, and you see them in the market, or you go to the pharmacy and then you overheard them say, "Oh, I was prescribed this medication," you smile because that's some of the joy that you have. So I think That's one of the sense of fulfillment for me. And the
Excellent.
other thing is, it's good. It's the travel. I mean, you get to go to places that under normal circumstances you would not think you're going to travel to, especially, and it all depends on the study and the sponsor you're working with. So, um, a lot
Yeah.
of times I've gone to places that I don't think on a normal good day I even think about
And
them. Or if,
I'll share one weird travel story. I know there was a time Inka went for an investigational meeting, which is a meeting you have with everybody participating in a study before it starts. And guess where it was? She went to Argentina, Buenos Aires, the venue. And of course, I tagged along on this one that, okay, you go do your meeting, I just go enjoy myself. So sometimes the travel are weird. You can, occasionally even find yourself in international travel. Let's take another one that is a big question there. What educational background must you already have to get into this field? Any extra requirements? What are the typical background required for such a field?
pretty much, they'll tell you it definitely you have to have a science background. That's a must. I know people in social sciences that have gone through the program, and they're in the field right now. But now there are a lot of more stringent on your background. So any science background. But if you're a nurse, doctor, pharmacist, in the medical field already, I mean, that's a plus. Um, there's really no clearance requirements, but sometimes having um, been a body of some of the clinical research bodies, it's a plus. I see some of the companies, asking if your SOCRA certificate. I don't have that certificate, maybe because I wasn't required when I started, but it's a plus for some CROs, but pretty much there's really not any clearance requirement. But of course, you have to have the ability to work in the
Yeah.
United States, Canada, or the UK, or Australia, or any of those places, depending where you are. So I think those are the most important thing. But pretty much, you just have to have a science background
Okay.
for you to be in clinical research.
Thank you. Another question is, what are the skills one should have to be a CRA? And remember, folks, that is the essence of the training and the background also that you would have. But generally speaking, Yinka, what are some of the skills one should have? Or let's put it this way, what are some of the most successful traits of a good CRA?
Like I mentioned earlier, you just have to be analytical. You just have to have an eagle eye, and you have to be detailed. You just have to be very detailed. You're reading patients' charts. It's like going to the doctor and they give you you went to see the doctor and they give you a copy of your visits, every single thing. You just want to see, okay, did they get the medication that I said I was on? Did they get the diagnosis that I said I was on? Previous diagnosis, the previous medication. If I say I've stopped the medication, I want to see them say, okay, I give them a stop date, and then the stop date is there. Oh, I told them I have headache, and they indicated on that report that I came in, I had an headache, or that, okay, the doctor spent 45 minutes with me, or she spent 10 minutes with me, or the result of my blood work. I want to see that, all of those things are there. So you just have to be, very detailed oriented, and you have to be able to um, utilize your time. You have this visit. When you go to a visit, there are so many things you're going to do on site. Then you come back, you have to write your report. And you're not just, managing one site, you're managing different sites. And what are sites? These are locations that the studies are being conducted. You have multiple sites. And apart from that, you yourself have training that you have to do in your own company. You have meetings that you have to do, you have follow-ups that you have to do. So you have to have time management and ensuring that you balance up everything. At the same time, you have your family and you have your own self too to manage. So you just have to be able to be detailed. You have to have good time management. You have to be analytical. You have to see something that somebody else will not see, like and ask questions, and be confident, because you're talking to doctors. Sometimes you talk to surgeons. A lot of times these are people on a normal days that you will not have access to,
Mm,
but you have to have access to them based on the study they are working on with you, and you have to have that confidence to talk to them. to have a conversation with them, to critique them when they are wrong, to train them, because those are some of the things you're doing. And also, at the same time, have a balance to know that, you're not there as a hawk watching over them, but, you're there to help them be a better side, do the right thing, be compliant, have less issues, have less findings, be audit ready, because they're going to be audited any which way, either by the sponsor or FDA. Those are the things you just have to have, and it's pretty much what you have as you navigate life. So you just have to have that like extra.
Thank you so much. We have another question here. Is travel 100%?
No. Uh, Pretty much they tell you 60, 80% travel. There are some studies that is no travel at all. Like I mentioned, with COVID, a lot of sites now utilize EMR, that's electronic medical records. So everything is online. So they give you access to the records for the subject or the patients that are in the study, not for the whole hospital or for the whole clinic. They will give you access, and you only have read access. You cannot change anything in it. And it's, of course, it's been audit trailed. No one time you log in and they know what you're doing, in that system. So you're able to work remotely. And there are some that are, 50% travel, 50% remote. So it depends. And there are some that say that will just tell you, okay, no, we don't do on-site anymore. We do remote, because pretty much a lot of our, coordinators uh, are remote too. So yeah, I have studies that I went 100% on site. I have studies that I did 50-50 on site. I have studies that are just 100% remote, because, they are not. A lot of the oncology studies are doing a lot more remote. And because, they are vulnerable patients. And so they don't want a lot of people into their sites. So no, 100, it's not 100%. And for most times, when they say 70, 80%, they just want your utilization to be about, you have maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 visits in a month. And when I say visits, it's like 1 day or 2 days, maximum 2 days. If you have to have a 3-day visit, then that's a lot. You probably will just have to ask for somebody to help you. Instead of you doing 3 days, you just ask for extra help. And then, you can go with somebody that is on the same study as you.
Okay. What do you think about, okay, another question here. Somebody asks, what is the job market like in this field right now?
Oh, well, the healthcare industry is always thriving. There's layoffs, there's employment. It's good all the time, but it's sometimes it's a challenging role to go to get into, because one, they have to be sure that you've done this, or you're able to do this. So when you get an interview, you have to be able to speak their lingua. You have to be able to communicate to the first person, like the recruiter, to submit you. So and I will say, um, it's based on you. It's how much you want it, and how much you determine that you want it, and how much work you put into it, that you will get. If you're really hungry, definitely you will get something. If you're just like, okay, let me just see what it is, it's going to be okay, just what it is. So it's your passion and your determination that will determine, if you get it or not. We are
Thank you.
definitely going to guide you through all the process, but it will tell you to do some things and you don't do them, then the market is not going to come to you. You have to, be hungry, put in your resume, prepare for the interviews, and do all the things that are doing an extra mile, going an extra mile beyond what we will be able to tell you to do. Like if I tell you read an hour and you're reading 3-4 hours, man, I tell you, by the time you want to do your interview, you have been able to talk to them, and they'll know, and and that's it. So it's like
Thank you.
any other market, it's like any other field. The jobs are there, it's just you.
All right. And I agree with that. The sentiment is, the way I look at it most time is people ask me, should I apply? Are there jobs? The way I look at it is simple. It's like telling someone about to graduate, don't graduate yet because the industry is bad. You know, personally, we don't listen to hearsay. If you're hungry, just go all in. Keep trying. The universe would attract to us because what option do we have? Am I going to just sit down idle? I'll take my chance. That's the way we look at it. So we'll keep pushing hard, put the work and discipline, we stand a chance. Another question is that are there certifications for CRAs and is it required?
Well, definitely there's no certifications. There are bodies that provide certifications like the ACRA and the SOCRA. You can do those certifications. Some of them, some people ask for it these days, like I mentioned earlier. But pretty much, you really don't need a certification. You want to do it, you're just doing it because you want, to have something. I don't have a certificate. I've been doing CRA for more than 10 years now. I don't have a certificate.
Thank you. All right. Let's see another question here. Somebody said, I heard you say CRO. My question is the title CRO or CRA and what CRO?
Okay, CRA is Clinical Research Associate. That's who you are. That's who I am right now. I'm a Clinical Research Associate. Associate does not mean a low level. That's just the title. So you could be a senior CRA, a Senior Clinical Research Associate. You could be a Principal Senior Clinical Research Associate. You could be CRA 1, CRA 2, CRA 3, Senior 1, Senior 2, Senior 3, Principal. And it all depends on what the company you're working for is. CRO is Clinical Research Organization. So they're a body that works with the pharmaceuticals. What is a pharmaceutical? It's like Pfizer, it's like Moderna. So Pfizer has their own CRAs too. They have clinical research that oversees some of their studies. But because they have a lot of drugs that they are sponsoring, but they are working on, so they look for clinical research organizations, and all these clinical research organizations go to all this. Is the way that every company bids for jobs. So a clinical research organization bids for this job with all of these pharmaceuticals, Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, GSK. A lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. So that's who a clinical research organization is, and some of them do end to end. That is, they get the contracts. They do every single thing in the clinical research world from end to end. That is from the beginning. When they bid for the job, they get the contract till the end when they submit to FDA. So, and then they get approved. So those are the
Okay.
work the clinical research organization does. So it's like
Excellent.
your company got a contract and you execute it. So they are the executors.
Thank you. And for everybody, this is the site you can take the good clinical practice training. Is free. So everyone in our program, we make you take it before you start our program typically. And it's free. It's just amazing way to get you started. Okay. And I'll share that in a larger group also. But before we wrap up, we would just like Inka will just take us through some of the content. It will be very fast on what we covered in the training so you can have an idea of it, show you the content so you can have an appreciation of it. So and Inka, you can take it away from for that part of it. Let me get you back so that you can share your screen and take it away.
Okay, thank you. So this is what we're going to cover for the study. I'm just going to run briefly through it. So whatever questions you have in between, you can write it in the chat, or you can wait till after, and then I can answer all of your questions. So we're just going to, these are some of the topics we're going to introduce you to what clinical research is, the definition and the significance. That is the importance of clinical research in advancing medical knowledge and treatment. We go briefly through the historical perspective, from when I'm sure there's a lot of you that had the story of when they injected some black men with syphilis, and they didn't treat them because they were just trying to do something. So some of the history of when clinical research started, and then ethical consideration. And that's one of the certificates we ask you to get. You always do that wherever company you work with. It's called the GCP, and that's good clinical practice. So how GCP came in to be, and it's all emerged from that syphilis where people were injected, and they weren't provided care, and it blew up in the whole country, it blew up in the whole world. And so the bring in a body and said, okay, we just have to be ethical about this. And so what clinical research is all about is the patient safety. That's, you ensuring that that patient is safe in whatever site or study you're working on, and also ensuring that, the documents, the data has integrity, that is, this site is not forging records or, manufacturing patients. So a lot has happened. So you'll be surprised at the stories that goes out there. So these are just the clinical trial design planning. This is just like an overview. What are the study objectives, the study design types, the different kinds of, there's always randomized control trials, double-blinded, investigator-initiated studies, observational studies. We're going to talk briefly about them. And then protocol. Protocol is like your Bible in clinical research. So you have a study, that study has a protocol. So that study tells you all the things you need to know about the study. It tells you about who are going to be included, who are going to be excluded from the study, the schedule of activities, the objectives, everything about the study. That is your Bible. So once I say a protocol, it is a manual for that study. So if they are working on Tylenol, that Tylenol has a protocol. So that is the book for Tylenol. So every single thing that the site does, they have to do it based on that book. If they do anything outside of that book, it's a deviation. So we're just going to talk about, so that is what protocol is all about. It's not too much. We're not doing in depth on it because we don't develop the protocol as a CRA. We follow the protocol. We ensure that the site, the doctors, the coordinators, the site, the nurses, everybody at the site where you are following that protocol. So it's your Bible. Informed consent and principal participant rights. We're just going to discuss what an informed consent is, and this basically is um, an agreement that the patient signs that they are willingly, they were not coerced, they were not tricked, they were not manipulated either by financial gains or things like that into the study. And all of this is just protecting that human subject, and it's also protecting the vulnerable population. Like if somebody is in coma, who is able to sign, you're not just going to say, oh, because this study is about subject that are in coma, they are vulnerable, they cannot sign that consent. So what are the things in place that is being done to ensure that they are just not being um, given a medication that has not been approved in the market? That is a study. So we're going to talk about informed consent, and right now I'm going to just let you know the easiest way to read the protocol, because the protocol usually it's about a minimum of 50 pages. Some of them will go has more than 100 pages. So if you want to understand the study, read the informed consent end to end, because it tells you everything that needs to go on about the study. Because in that informed consent, it's a concise way of explaining the study to the participants to ensure that they know what they are going through by signing for that study. And so they sign that. Whoever is consenting them signs it. And of course, we have to be sure that, the person consenting, that person is able to consent that person, which we'll talk about later during the study. These are the regulatory and ethics compliance, and these are IRB. IRB means investigators regulatory board. And before a study can be conducted, once they have to be approved. And these, like I mentioned, at the initial point, the reason why we have a regulatory board is because there were so many malpractices, like the syphilis case where they injected people with different things and they didn't provide them because they used them as guinea pigs. And so there's a regulatory board that you have to submit things. So if there's a new version of the protocol, maybe based on the fact that there was a lot of complaints, which we call adverse events, they will need to update the protocol, and they call that an amendment to the protocol. So everything that is being utilized for the study, the adverts, the whatever that is being used, even the um, supplies they give to the patients, or things they give to the patient for the study, all of this has to be approved by the regulatory board, and the regulatory board will go through it to ensure that these things meet the standard that is being required in the country of the study. So whatever, like we have FDA in the US, we have the EMA on in Europe, and all of those things, they all have their regulatory bodies, and so it has to meet that standard. And also, these hospitals to also have regulatory bodies. Different people have regulatory bodies, which we'll talk about, because we have central, we have local IRBs, and all of these things is just to ensure that we get approvals for every single documentation, every single thing that we use in clinical research. This is pretty much our job. This is where we come in during site selection and management. Site identifications, the CRO identifies these sites. And how do they identify these sites? If there's a study, they send out like a visibility questionnaire and all of those things, and send them to, okay, we are doing a diabetic study. Who are the people that they need, that sees a diabetic patients, probably internal medicine doctors, family medicine doctors. They're not going to look for a diabetic patient in an OBGYN. They might tell the OBGYN, but they're not going to conduct the study in her own office. She might refer the patient to an internal medicine or to a family doctor, and then she can, be a participant at their own sites. So most of the people you utilize are based on, their specialty, has a clinic and has a doctor. So the CRO usually will do a visibility questionnaire, send it out to all of these people, doctors. It's not every doctors that participate in research. There's some doctors that participate in research. And so those are the ones that they will send us questionnaires to see about them. So there's a whole process in there. And so we're just going to talk about them. And then we're going to talk then, site initiation, site monitoring are things we begin to do. During site identifications, there are things we will do. Maybe just let us know about sites that you have sent your questionnaires to, so that you probably can follow up and, have them indicate if they are interested or not. But pretty much, you don't have a lot to do during site identification. But when it comes to site initiations, that is when you come in. And this is just after site identifications. There are so many things that have gone through the process between identification and site initiation, which we will discuss. But site initiation is just after the site has been identified, you are now going to train the site. They have done all of these things. They have gotten their approval. They've gotten, all of the things they need for the study. They are involved in the study. They've signed all the contracts. They've done everything. So you're initiating them, and what you're initiating them is ensuring that they can now start recruiting patients and enrolling patients into the study. So after they have been identified, you go in there to initiate the sites. You meet with the sites, you train all of the people that are going to be part of the study. And so you just do one of that for a site. Then once you've initiated them and then they have started recruiting, then you do your site monitoring. So with site monitoring, that is when you go on site, you look at their charts, you look at their training, and so many things that go on through site monitoring. Site monitoring is a lot. You do a lot of site monitoring, and that depends on something they call monitoring plan, which we will discuss during the study. But for a site, you do one site initiation. There's something that you do before that, which is site qualification. But with site monitoring, you could do for a study in a year, you could do, if you're doing one visit a month, so that's like 12 visits a year that you do in one particular site. So you do a lot of, and so if you have like 7 sites and you're doing one a month for each site, so at the end of the year, you've gone to one site 12 times, you've gone to the other sites the number of times. Recruitment strategies, these are just, how to ensure that they meet their um, uh, quota for the number of subjects that they said they going to put. So you are following up with them to ensure that, oh, you during your questionnaire, you said you're going to be able to give us 10 subjects. So definitely that 10 subjects, you start working with them to ensure that they provide that 10 subjects. If there are other bodies that you use as a clinical research organization, we will talk about that. There are also retention challenges. People start studies and then they find they can't make that commitment. They can withdraw. That is part of the things that they sign on when they do the informed consent, because in that informed consent, it tells them if you're no longer comfortable with the study, you can pull out at any time at no obligations, nothing costs you. So those are, and some studies, they just don't feel comfortable with it anymore, or the demand was just too much or something, and so they tend to withdraw. So those are some of the challenges sites face. Community engagement, these are just outreaches and things that happen, with the sites, with the CROs, between the CROs and the sites to help, with recruitment and retention. We're going to talk about data collections and management. Pretty much what we do is data verification, data review, CRF review, and that's case report form. So we're using an EDC. We're just going to see what a CRF looks like and just talk about it. We don't design CRFs. All we do is verify those CRFs and ensure that, they update the CRF correctly. They do it with the data entry timeline, because there's an timeline that, a patient comes to their site and they put it into the EDC. The EDC means electronic data capture. So we, as a CRA, we look at what is in their EMR or their paper source, which is the paper medical records, and they put it into the EDC. So we go to the doctor's office, we look at the paper charts or the EMR and ensure that they match, and ensure that, they're putting in the right thing. So data collection is just that's ensuring that, the data entry, the validation, and the quality of that data is right. So if you see on the data that's on the paper data that they have cross, you have to ask, why did you cross this? Because under normal circumstances, if it's a paper chart, they just have to draw a line and sign. But you see that they have put a black marker or something, you have to ask, what did they change in that data? Because what's one thing that you need to do? The data integrity. So you just have to, ask that question, and they have to give you a reason why that was done.
And
So
Inka, can we just take a pause for a second? I know some people have some questions. Let's pause for a second and see if we can take some of those questions in case people
okay.
that have to leave real quick. So one of the questions is from Kelvin. Let's see, or let's start with Kelvin. What is the start pay for a CRA? Then a follow-up to that was, what's the entry mid highest level pay range? Can we, for the cost of the training and other questions? And we're going to put the information on the cost of the training, the link in a bit. But let's start with the pay range. What is the pay range in general? You know,
It
what is
depends.
the
Entry
range?
level, definitely, it depends on, one, your negotiating skills, and two, depend on what level you're starting with. Of course, you're not going to go start with a senior role. So you probably would do, depending on how comfortable you are, you either would do an entry level or a mid level. So we're looking at between more than 70 to 80 for an entry level. And then
Okay.
for a mid level, definitely you're looking at between 80, 120,
Okay.
80. 110, 120. Senior level, you're looking at between 100, 120, 130, 140. Senior, it just depends. And
Okay.
a lot of times, a lot of people move very fast, and so they can get to their peak of salary range faster than the other person. And
Yeah.
so it just depends
Okay.
um, on
Thank
that.
you so much. So, I mean, the bottom line is for a start, we recommend let's focus on the skill, start the job. Honestly, this is one of those fields I'll tell you upfront. Money is not the problem if you know your stuff. It's not common for people. We are not saying start with that. We've seen people that do two gigs really, but we don't say we don't recommend that immediately. But I'm just saying the options are always there. The money is always there. It's not the issue, but make sure the skill, the focus is there. The second question somebody asked real quick was, what's the duration of the training? You can see it starts from November 9th. It ends Saturday, December 14th. Thanksgiving would be a break time. And another question somebody asked was the cost of the program. So I'll just quickly share how you get to it. Just go to academy.skillway.com and you will see that information real quick. Let me share my screen so you guys can see it also. Very straightforward, straight to the point. You can just easily go to, let's go to the website real quick. Just go to skillway.com and you would see the information there. Let me share my screen real quick so you can have access to that also real quick. Preset share. All right. So if you are here, you can see, just go to, okay, for everybody, this is a good site. We would like you all to go to and go do the good clinical practice. It's a free website out there, and you can easily just go and start having, get your GCP certification very easy. And for the program, you can go to academy.skillway.com. And this is the program here, clinical research here. The price is 1200 for the program. You click on it and it will take you to the actual site. And we also have payment option here. You can do twice or three times. It's in every 30 days interval and it's automatic. So hopefully that answers that question. Duration is 6 weeks. Somebody also asked a follow-up question. What is OBGYN? Ha 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 ha.
Oh,
Let's,
that's your gynecologist,
yeah,
obstetrics and gynecologist. So,
yeah.
yeah, that's a gynecologist.
Okay, excellent. All right. Hopefully that addressed some of the questions. So Yinka, let me let you go back. We have just run through this real quick and just take the top heading in green and use it to guide. So please continue. I wanted to
Okay.
address the question for some people leave. Okay,
All
go
right.
ahead.
So we're going to also talk about pharmacovigilance and safety reports. That is, the brain behind our work. Um, the reason why they recall some medications is when they have a lot of adverse events. They'll tell you a lot of people are having either, vomiting, nausea, fainting, and then they recall the drug. So this is what happens during clinical research. um, a lot of times you have to report that adverse events, and that's the number one reason for clinical research. That is patient safety. So as much as the patient is complaining about something, you have to ensure that it's being reported. So these are some of the data they collect. So at the end of the day, when you look at your medications, they tell you some of the side effects that you might experience. All of this data is collected during clinical research. So that's about, pharmacovigilance and safety reporting. Safety reporting is just telling you about the timeline that the site has to report this adverse event to the sponsor, the IRB, and update it in the data for for the people that would work on it to work on it. Ours is just to follow up and to ensure that they report it timely. So clinical trial monitoring and quality assurance, that talked about the monitoring plan. It's just a guidelines concerning you, the CRO and the CRA and other, other people that work with the clinical research organization. And it's just telling you, what you need to do on the study. And it also guides you on, it tells you, okay, Are we doing source document verification 100%? Are we doing it 50%? Are we doing risk-based management? Those are things we'll discuss during that. And it also tell you the timeline that you have to go on site. It will tell you, you have to go on site every 2 weeks, you have to go on site every 4 weeks or thereabouts. So these are some of the monitoring that that we have in clinical research. And also, we're going to talk about audits and inspections. There's always audits that occurs during clinical research for a study, and all you have to do is to ensure that your site is audit ready at all times. And there are different things that go on through the audit. It's not just the patient's record they are looking at, they're also looking at the site itself. Data analysis, these are just things we just need to know. We're not really the ones doing all of this analysis, but these are things that occur in clinical research. All of the data that is being collected is being analyzed. And so we're just letting you know that, all of these are analyzed, and these are what they submit eventually to the FDA. And this is what determines if a study will be terminated prior going to FDA, or when it gets to FDA and FDA has a lot of questions, and they can this thing. And then the clinical study reports is just all of the reports that occurs in a study, the ones you send to sites, the ones you do as a clinical research associate. So close out. These are all things that we do in clinical research. The study closeout and reporting, that is the end of the study. So if they say study is 5 years, sometimes you're lucky you'll be on a study from startup to end if you stay with a clinical research organization. If you're not one of them that will spend 1 year and leave, if you stay in a clinical research organization, you would experience end to end of a clinical study. And that is from site visibility to qualifying the site, to monitoring, and then the site closeout. You do site closeouts when the study is ended. Everything has been done. There are things that will be done. And then you can also do site closeouts when some PRs we just said, okay, I'm retiring, I'm no longer interested in this study. And you have to go close out their studies, or when they start recruiting and these sites did not recruit any subject at all, there's a number of weeks or months that they would allow, that they put out for enrollment. If during those periods they did not enroll, then they have to close out that site, so it doesn't cost the sponsor money. And so these are the things you will do during a study closeout. So like we've already mentioned what a clinical research associate is. We oversee and manage clinical trials, and we ensure ethical and efficient conduct. That's patient safety and data integrity. That is all you do. That is all you're ensuring. That is your key role. Your key responsibilities is, monitoring study progress, data integrity, and liaise with stakeholders. That's your site. You have to have a good relationship with your sites, because I tell you, there's some sites will not do anything. But if you have a good relationship with them, you'll be able to know how to work with them. And it's not when, there's a deadline, there's something coming up, and everybody's running helter-skelter. So sites still do it, no matter how much you have a relationship with them. But, you have to be able to liaise with them. Then, of course, you have to ensure that, their regulatory compliance is up to date. They get approval for every single thing they do at that site before doing anything. So these are some of the reasons for high demand in clinical research. Pharmaceutical growth, like every day, it's like there's a new virus or a bacteria or a new disease. And so the pharmaceutical company is always bringing out something that needs to be studied to help that, new bacteria, new virus, new whatever that is coming out. So yeah. And then also we have the regulatory requirements, the stricter compliance standard that necessitates the monitoring of clinical trials. The FDA will not just approve any drug, no matter, like Pfizer has been around for so many years. I worked on Pfizer study that, was terminated because it was just too dangerous. So it's not like, Pfizer has been there for every year, so FDA should have known them and just, approve their drug. No, it doesn't happen that way. If Pfizer understands, and the regulatory authorities have a report of serious adverse events, which we call SAEs. That's the patient complaining we're having deaths, hospitalization, things like that. FDA will call for a meeting. I'm on a study right now that's FDA put on hold for months, and they just lifted that hold right now. And so we have to go through a lot of things, amendments, approvals before we can start the study. So it takes a while. So it's for sometimes a study takes 6 months that you think will go as far as 2 years.
All right.
Um, I know time is up. Technological advancement in clinical research. These are some of the things we're going to look at. Digital tools that we use, data management, AI. Well, I'm sure Aki would take the AI aspect of that class. So this is what we were talking about, the salary, which we talked about previously. And so it's here right now for you to see what the salary is.
And I'll share this slide with the community also. They can have access to it. And I know we are past our time a little bit, but I think the only thing left is the future growth and projection out there. This industry is here to stay, we can tell, because of the need out there globally. So there was the Emergency Fund Act that took place. So a lot of things are just, making it much more robust a field. So let's take any other question and let's just wrap this up. And like we said, we're going to pick up on Saturday for some of you that have registered already. And our commitment to you is that all the skills, the tools necessary to be successful will make sure we can hold your hands towards that goal. Now, we're not of the illusion anything is automatic. We know we got to put the work, and that's why we're here. If we work hard together, remain focused, we stand a chance together. Now, for the job market, we look at things different, even in our other community. The question I ask myself and everybody is, what option do we have? Are we going to stay? We are not going to develop ourselves because of what we hear people say or what the industry says. We have to upskill and prepare and take a chance than not taking a chance, really. Because the question remains to me, what option do you have? Okay, sit back, let life just happen. We don't have the opportunity. Then we just lose automatically because we are not even in the ring. But if we're in the ring, we stand a chance. So that's our angle of it. We have to keep upskilling ourselves, developing ourselves. When the opportunity show, we are at the minimum ready to go. All right, let's take one more question. Okay, I like this. Somebody said, Yinka, you want to take this? So, top tier communication skills required in this career field for sure.
Definitely. Like I mentioned, you don't want to go face a surgeon or a cardiovascular doctor, cardiologist, and you don't know what you're going to say. That's why I said your protocol is your Bible. You're not going to
Yeah.
say anything outside of what your protocol is. But the good thing about it is they don't expect you to prove to them that you're a cardiologist. You're not a cardiologist. They are the cardiologist, but you all just need to let them know that this is what the protocol says. If there's something on the schedule of activities, like the subject, like when you go to your doctor, they're supposed to do your weight, height, vital signs, blood pressure, but you went to your doctor and they did not do any of those things. They did not do your weight, they did not do your blood pressure, they did not do anything, they did not do any of the vital signs. I mean, what are you going to look? You're just going to feel like, okay, so nothing is wrong with me, and then you went there purposely because you called them and you said you had something going on. So you want to be able to make meaningful conversation. So you have to look at your schedule of activities, read your protocol, and said, uh, the subject was supposed to do this and this was not done. Why was it not done? That's a protocol deviation. You have to report it. You have to know your regulatory reporting guidelines as well. The company equips you for everything, so there's always going to be something which they call protocol, the deviation rules. So you have a deviation rules that you work with in for every study you do. So in that deviation rules, it tells you, okay, if this vital signs is not done, it's a protocol deviation. So you have to let them know that it's a protocol deviation. Is it reportable? Do you have to report it to the IRB? Some of them know, but they have to have a deviation log that they have to put in that deviation, which is going away from what the protocol says. So those are some of the things you need to be able to have good communication skills
Thank
with
you.
your doctor. It's not
Thank you
proving
so
that
much, Inka.
you're
Thank you very much. And I know we have just about 30 seconds to go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see if you have any other question before we let Inka go. And it's been a delight and pleasure. And I'll tell you one thing, folks, we are in in great hands. She's one of the best the world has to offer. The wealth of experience. She's been to some of the best CROs the world has to offer. Par Excel, PPD, some of you in that space can tell they are the biggest players in this field. And I see her as a mentor in that space because I played in that space some while back. I remember my first experience. I was just panicking and called her, "Hey, how do I go about some things here?" She will be the instructor, by the way. Somebody said, "Will she?" I know you don't want me to be the instructor, Mr. B. I like that. She will be the instructor. And every now and then, if she needs me to give my some of my war stories in the past, playing around that field too, I'll be happy to share some experiences there. But she'll be, I'm honored to have her as the instructor in this program. And we're going to make it fun, very, very hands-on focused, very, very practical focus, use cases, real life example. And one thing I'll tell you is that most people that wire you and I, they want someone that can talk the story. I can tell if you are giving me theory talk. I need someone that can simulate scenario, give me use cases that are meaningful and useful to me when I go to the site to work at the end of the day. So that's what you're going to get at the end of the day. And just put the work, put the discipline, put the time. 6 weeks from now, God's willing, early January, we can start applying for roles at the end of the day. But without any further ado, and if we have no more questions, let's give some love to Inka. Thank you so much, Inka. You're awesome. Appreciate you
Thank
jumping on
you,
the call.
everyone. I look
And
forward to, working with you all and look forward to, getting you into the CRE world.
excellent, excellent. I love it. And folks, if you have more questions, reach out to us as always and I'll send the slide for this class and the for this presentation and this link to the Skillweed group also, so you can, if you have questions, feel free to follow up with us. We'll be happy to address those questions. And as always, as a part of our tradition, we always like to leave with our flagship song. So let's go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it, guys, ladies. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody.
Feel the drums pulsating, the energy so strong. Join the movement where dreams belong. From Lagos to Nairobi, hear the call. Skillweed Academy, break down the walls. In the heart of Africa, a flame ignites, a rhythm so vibrant, it sets minds alight. Skillweed Academy, where leaders are born. Embrace the tempo, let your dreams take storm. Rise up, leaders, let the beat guide your way.